Hey everybody, and welcome back to our special series, The 12 Days of Christmas. This is, of course, 12 Christmas movie reviews over the course of 12 days so that you'll know what Christmas movies to check out while you're stuck inside with your family at Christmas time. So today's movie is probably one of the silliest movies and maybe one of the most questionable choices on the list. I don't want to say that these 12 are my favorite Christmas movies, but they are probably movies that I check out more often than any others. And not all of them are like that serious Christmas sense movie. Today we are going to be talking about the 1996 classic Jingle All the Way. So for those of you who may not have lived through the 90s, there was like a weird span of the early and mid 90s where movies just seemed to go a little crazy, and they started sticking stars in movies where they didn't belong, and it's like, hey, just throw anything up on the screen. People will go see it. Of course, this was before the age of $18 movie tickets and $6 popcorn, and it being kind of a movie experience. This was the old uncomfortable seats, and you could get in for $5 or $6, and so it didn't really matter. It was just, let's go to the movies this weekend, because we go to the movies every weekend. And Christmas time was no exception. There was a lot of kind of weird movies. A lot of them didn't really survive to become classics, and I'm not going to say that today's movie really is a classic. It's just something that struck me when it first came out, and now it's one of those movies that when I catch it on cable, I can't turn it off. I'll just finish watching it from wherever I catch it to the end, because it's got that kind of cult feeling. And maybe it just reminds me of being 12 years old when I first saw it back in the 90s. So let's get through the pleasantries, of course. Jingle All the Way was directed by Brian Levant. It was written by Randy Cornfield, and is starring the cast of, well, really the cast of the 90s, if you really think about it. The principal cast is made up of Arnold Schwarzenegger as the dad, Howard Lang, the comedian Sinbad as Myron Larrabee, a postman who squares off against Howard, Rita Wilson as Howard's wife, Liz Langston, another famous 90s comedian, Phil Hartman, who was tragically lost in the early 2000s, R.I.P. Phil Hartman, as the neighbor who clearly throughout the movie is trying to bang Arnold's wife. Jake Lloyd in one of his little kid roles as Jamie Lang, Arnold Schwarzenegger's son. Robert Conrad and Jim Belushi in a couple of bit parts as a policeman who Howard keeps running into, and a mall Santa who Howard gets wrapped up with. And they're supported by a cast of characters who I've talked about this before, about like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Well, this is that only for mid-90s movies. And I had the thought while I was rewatching it, it is so strange because I recognize the faces immediately. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember him from this, this, and this. I remember her from that. But you don't see him anymore. Like, they played those bit parts for that little time period, and now they've been replaced by other people who are playing kind of the similar parts. And it's so weird to think about the way that the film industry works, and things just kind of keep moving on. And you might always just be that bit part, but fantastic cast nonetheless. Now, Jingle All the Way is a guilty pleasure for the holiday season. It is a Christmas movie about all the things that Christmas shouldn't be about. And when I say that, what I mean is that the whole plot of the movie is that there is an absentee father, and he's not absentee in like the traditional way, I suppose. He works too much, and he's never home, and he misses his son's events, including karate, which is kind of how the story all gets kicked off, and he continues to make promises, and he continues to break them. Now, this was a really familiar theme during the 90s, not just for Christmas movies, but in general. And of course, we know going in that Dad's going to learn a lesson, but the question is, what lesson is he going to learn, and how's he going to learn it? And another phenomenon in this movie, which I think is so strange, is the centerpiece is something called Turbo Man. He's a Power Rangers type figure, and it's the hottest toy of the holiday season. And I remember being 12, and I don't remember there being that kind of toy. Later on, of course, there was the Tickle Me Elmo that took over. There was the, Furbies, all of those things. But I don't remember it starting that early, and I'm wondering if I missed it because I was a kid and I was obsessed with the things I was obsessed with, or did this movie kind of predict that would happen in the future? I don't know. Is art imitating life? Is life imitating art? I think I was too young to really know at the time which direction we were going. And I'm going to try to avoid spoilers, but I will tell you a few specifics from the movie. If you want to know what kind of movie you're getting into, at one point, Arnold Schwarzenegger punches a reindeer. And on my most recent watching, as it was about to happen, I had forgotten that it happened. And as it was about to happen, I just said to myself, like, oh, whoa, yeah, he's about to punch that reindeer. I forgot about this. And then boom, he punches the reindeer. And it's one of those things, like, I wonder why they chose Arnold Schwarzenegger for the part. And I was reminded of it by the time the movie wrapped up. But that was one of those moments where I was like, oh, maybe that's why they chose Arnold, because you have to believe that Dad, who is caught in this scenario and gets charged by a reindeer, would be able to punch it and have something, work out in his favor there. He also, as an apology, gives the reindeer beer, which I'm pretty sure is not something cool that you should do. So if you see that, don't give reindeer beer. And of course, Howard, Arnold Schwarzenegger, is set off by Phil Hartman, the next door neighbor, who is divorced but is super dad. He is at all of his son's events. Of course, his son is best friends with Jamie, Howard's son. So they do karate together. They are in school together. They hang out together. They're best friends. Phil Hartman's character is everything that Howard is not, except for there's something devious behind him. And he is that typical 90s character that, like, every woman wants him, but he doesn't want them. He wants the one woman who he can have, and that's, of course, Howard's wife. But he makes it, like, subtly clear through ways that I completely missed as a kid, but now I can really enjoy of hitting on her. It was such a surprise to me when, like, that entire storyline kind of wraps when it happened when I was a kid. But now as an adult, I can just see, like, oh, Phil Hartman in this movie is every sleazy friend that I have. There's the cheesy pickup lines, and I'm trying to be the nice guy to get around on it, and it's one of those things. I can appreciate it differently now, being an adult, than I definitely did when I was a kid. So another thing that kind of happened in 90s movies, we eventually get to the change, the point where everything culminates, and the complexity of film, and again, maybe it's only because I was a kid in the 90s and I didn't know, but I feel like the complexity of film has really stepped up in the 2000s and the aughts, and now in the teens. And back then, it was like, listen, I know this is going to work out. I know he's going to become a good dad, but how does he get there? What happens to get him there? And this is really a story about a guy who gets to the point that he should be. He becomes a good dad, but it happens to him. It's not something he did, and he doesn't have to change anything about himself for it to happen. It's a Christmas miracle that he gets to be a good dad, and that his son is redeemed. Everything he does along the way is the wrong thing. And there are some super funny moments. Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you didn't know this, like, went through that comedy period in the 90s where he did, like, Kindergarten Cop, he did this movie, and a bunch of other ones. He is a super funny guy. And you put him across from Sinbad, and those two just play off of each other so well, and it really sets up everything that's great about the movie. And listen, this is not a complex film. It is very superficial, but it's very fun. Now, on my most current watching, just being able to go through it and just being like, you know what, it holds up. It's not classic cinema. It's not an Oscar winner, but if you want to just kind of be reminded of, like, there's more important things than what toy we get, sure. This is a great movie to do that, and it's like how important family is more than the things. It does that, and it's just celebrating the holiday season in the Twin Cities, which, by the way, Minneapolis, St. Paul, not a popular place for a setting for movies, winter movies or not. Being set in Minneapolis, St. Paul I forgot that, and it was very strange, but yeah, I think it was a perfect setting for this. Like a big city with a small town feel. That's exactly what we needed. So if you're stuck at home with your family inside and you say, you know what, I'm not looking for a Christmassy movie. I don't want to watch Miracle on 34th Street. I don't want to watch A Christmas Story. I want it to be Christmas themed because I want to stay in the spirit, but I want to laugh and I want to be entertained and I want it just to be a dumb comedy. And you know what? A dumb 90s comedy would be even better. Could we get an action film hero to be the lead in that? Well, oh boy, do I have the movie for you. Jingle all the way. And, it's kind of, the rating is going to be pointless throughout these 12 days of Christmas because these are all movies that I love or that I tend to watch every year, whether or not I particularly love them or not, just because of tradition or whatever else. In getting together these 12 movies, I tried to think back on all the movies that I would want to watch and that maybe I would want to share. This movie popped in very early to that list. So Jingle All the Way. Take the 90 minutes because it was the 90s and we stuck strictly to like that 90, 100-minute rule. Take the 90 minutes to watch it. It's not going to be a good use of time. it's not a good use of time. But, it's that kind of movie that when you just want to have your family on the couch, it's safe to watch with your parents. Again, Phil Hartman's kind of that creepy guy that we all know, but it never rises to the point that it's not appropriate for kids, and it's never something you wouldn't want, you'd be uncomfortable sitting next to your mom or your dad and watching, which I think is the perfect kind of holiday movie. Stays in the Christmas spirit, and it's kind of safe enough for kids, but got those adult themes as well where we can all kind of enjoy it. That is why it has made the list of the 12 movies for the 12 Days of Christmas. So, Jingle All the Way, make sure you put it on your list of movies to watch this holiday season. And that's it for another episode of the Everyman Movie Review. Thank you once again for joining me for this special series, The 12 Days of Christmas. Quickly, if you want to support me and all the work that I'm doing, especially in this time of giving, a great way to do that is to go on over to patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek and become one of my patrons for the next year. For as little as $1 a month, you get early access to everything, and you get mentions and thanks in all the videos and the works that I do, whether it's a screenplay or a book, or these YouTube videos, or even some of the short films that we're working on. So that's, of course, patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek. And you can find me for free, of course, at all your social networks, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Snapchat, TikTok, where I'm trying to make some really funny videos with my nephew through this holiday season. You can find me on all those places at Robert N. Cheek. You're probably watching right now on the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Rob Cheek. Please make sure you check out all the other videos, my usual Everyman Movie Reviews, the Rob Explains series, and I got a lot of exciting stuff coming. So why not hit that subscribe button, give me a gift for the holiday season, and give yourself a gift. Hit the notification button so you know when I post my next video. And if you're listening to this in podcast form, of course, you're probably doing so at anchor.fm/Everyman Movie Reviews. And you might not be directly on that site, but Anchor is where you're going to be able to find a link to wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. And of course, don't forget to check out robertncheek.com, where it's got more information about me and everything that I'm working on. You got nothing but time. It's the holidays. You're sitting around. Go check it out. And if in between these shows and the movies that you're going to be watching, of course, from the 12 Days of Christmas, you got a little extra time, make sure you check out the Oh the Anthem podcast. New episodes of that podcast come out every Tuesday. You can find more information at ohtheanthem.com. The videos are available at youtube.com/ohtheanthem, and you can find it at anchor.fm/ohtheanthem in podcast form. Thank you guys once again for joining me again for this special series. Make sure you tune in tomorrow because we're going to have another movie for the 12 Days of Christmas special. I'm so excited to bring you my favorite movies from this time of year on 12 consecutive days leading up to Christmas Day. Have a happy holiday season. I hope you're enjoying it with your family, and my best to you and yours during this time of year. So until next time, have a great week, everybody.